Hi, welcome back to Live and Breathe Horses, and the last part of our little mini-series about the main challenges that seem to come up for riders or ground workers. So today we're on, like I said, number 5, which is about forgetting to go back to basics and confirm the basics and the foundation. And this is something that sounds very obvious, but it just seemed so important to mention, because it seems, like you would think that would be a very obvious thing, but from experience of working with people, it very often isn't. So how does that show up in the human? I think it's very much about only seeing the problems and what's not going without looking at the solutions, and then we can go into the first 2 things about trying too hard, beating ourselves up, and the other 2, fear of doing it wrong. The previous 4 things kind of are all symptoms that come into this one. So really it's about the ability to break things down. So in number 4, we were talking about the fear of doing it wrong. So when it goes wrong and it doesn't work, like say you're trying to learn a shoulder in, for example, and it doesn't work. So you could break it down. Well, why doesn't it work? Is it that your horse is, you're losing impulsion? Is it that they're rushing off? Is it that they're not bending? And then to come back and work on those things individually, which would be your basic things, So I think for the person, how else would it show up physically? This one isn't so much about that. It's more about just the attitude of, again, curiosity, and to always check with the basics. I see people get very focused on, now we're trotting and now we're doing this, and they don't have a break in between. So always, for me, coming back to basics is a very good one. Umo's doing some lovely stretches over here. Hey, Umi. So, hey! A very basic one is to always be giving the reins away, to check how's the work going. So whatever, if you're walk, trot, canter, and you just give the reins and relax, because of course this is one of the basics when the horse first starts, that you can walk, trot, canter with loose reins, not asking any particular posture, and just free forward movement, relaxed and willing. So to keep coming back to that, and what happens if you give the reins? If your horse runs off or falls flat on his face, we know there's something not quite right. What do you think, Umo? We'd like some input from you, please. So how does that show up for the horse? Lack of confidence. Oh my goodness, there's something exciting going on over there. Let's just have Umo in the background because he's looking very beautiful. So it shows up for the horse, like a lack of confidence and, possibly overreacting to things. And maybe excess pressure in the wrong place is the other thing I've noted down. So, I had a horse the other day who's working at quite an experienced or quite high level. But the rider says, but he's so spooky and unreliable and gets scared of nothing. So, of course, the basics weren't there. The horse didn't have the trust and confidence in the rider. So when there was a little moment of, something happened, like the dog jumped out the bush, it was like a huge overreaction, because the basic thing of free forward and trust weren't in place. So if the horse is already tense and a bit scared of the rider, and then something scary happens, well, of course, it becomes much more of a big dramatic thing. So what's the solution? So to keep checking in, well, I'm out of order because I'm paying attention to Umo at the same time. So I already said the thing about keeping going back and checking, for example, just giving the reins, and knowing that any problems can be broken down into different phases and see what's going on. Oh, now you're pushing on the back of my camera here, Umo. That's no good, is it? There we go. So anyway, hey, get him back in the picture. He's much better looking than me. So That's it, wrapping it up there for that. I hope that's been helpful. I'd love to hear your comments. And as a conclusion for all 5 of these challenges that seem to come up over and over again, I would like to just stress 3 points. Number 1 being, breathe life into your horsemanship. You know? Just some nice, big, long, relaxing breaths. Take a moment and just literally breathe life into your body. Feel more what's going on with yourself, and then you can do that with your horse. Number 2, full presence. So to be fully present in the moment is the only way that we ever have a hope in hell of responding as quickly as we need to our horse, of having good feel and timing. You know, while we're trying too hard, beating ourselves up, busy worrying about doing all the right gestures, scared of doing it wrong, you know, all these things that we talked about, we're missing what's going on in the moment. So really just to come back to presence, simplify things, take a pause, stop, take a moment, feel what's going on now. You know, how is that for you? Go through all your senses, sometimes just stroking your horse and just feeling how beautiful, how that softness is a great way to come back to the present. Smell, you know, smell of horses. So number 3 is to practice through all of life with gratitude for the generosity of our horses. So another thing I say often to students is, you know, this is not about doing this an hour a day or however much time you happen to be able to spend with your horse. It's actually much more about practicing it all the time, you know, noticing what comes up in the horse when you get tense, when whatever's going on, and how that happens in other areas through life, you know, and finding the patterns and working on it in other ways at the same time. So, yeah, I hope that's useful. We're so lucky to have these wonderful, generous animals who allow us to practice our self-development and be better people for ourselves. But having the horses as an inspiration to be the best version of ourselves is a very precious gift. On that note, I'm going to leave you today. Umo and I are going to go off and play a bit. And thank you so much for your time, for listening. And I look forward to see you next time.
Oh, darling, darling, what have I done? Oh, darling.